So the question is, why is no one anywhere in the world telling you the truth and telling you to prepare? I will tell you that I had a network, one of the big three, a network official actually tell me in the last 2 years, Glenn, listen, we all know what's coming. And this is a quote, but we have a responsibility not to tell the American people because they'll freak out. I couldn't believe I was hearing that. Needless to say, the rest of the meeting didn't go well. Our economy is fragile and everyone treats you like you're a moron. All it takes is one incident the size of September 11th. You remember how much damage that did to our economy. One terror attack, one country's banks to go south, one huge natural disaster, civil unrest. It's all combining. And eventually it will be Thelma and Louise, and we go over the edge. Let me give you a timeline of some of the major natural disasters since 2000. These are the big natural disasters since 2000, and some of them have been really impactful. Now the terror attacks. You add the terror attacks on top of them. All of these things, because the world is tied together financially, all of these things mean something. On top of that, you now add the major riots. These are the riots around the world. How about the financial meltdowns? The financial meltdowns, add to those. And I can't, I'd be remiss if I didn't add the vampire attacks. So we have, of course, it's impossible to deny that something is going to happen. Maybe you want to live in the fantasy world where vampire attacks don't happen, but we are vulnerable to all of these things, except for the vampires. All of these things. We're more vulnerable now than ever before. The TSA just okayed knives on planes again. You can't bring baby formula or regular sized shampoo, but a knife is totally cool. Does that make sense to you? Our borders remain open. 10,000 people every day try to sneak through. Well, okay, that A, hurts the economy. B, more importantly, we know that Hamas is active in South America, trying to infiltrate the U.S. to try to commit a terrorist attack on our soil. Our energy grid remains vulnerable to attacks, or, the latest, we're supposedly going into the most active solar time in 100 years. That, in the 1800s and again in 1920, burned up all of the power lines. Cyber attacks are very real threats, but nobody even talks about those. You remember the electronic run on the bank that almost destroyed us in 24 hours? We have corrupt leaders who, I had an audience in just a little while ago. We did Tomorrow's Show today. It was college-age students. I asked them, how many of you believe the press? No one raised their hand. How many believe the politicians, GOP or Democrat? How many of you believe? Nobody raised their hand. How many kind of believe? Nobody raised their hand. And the people who are in Washington, not all of them, there's some really good people there. But you're telling me we don't have a few that could be compromised? We don't have any more Anthony Weiner and Weiner picks in there that could be compromised? We are extraordinarily vulnerable as a country and a people. Get hit with another terror attack, given that we're in an economy that is now borrowing more than anyone in the history of the world has ever borrowed. Ben Bernanke telling us $85 billion a month, $1 trillion every year. What? Help me out here. What's the problem? Financially, we're not just weaker than we were 10 years ago. America's problems are bigger in size and scope than any nation has ever faced in the history of the world. Now, the president and John Boehner both said, Republican and GOP, no immediate debt crisis in America. Well, I got to tell you, I'd like to vacation in the make-believe land that they're living in Washington, but I don't want to live there. The numbers don't lie. More than $16 trillion in debt. The Fed printing, pumping, digitizing another trillion every single year. It's actually 1.1 trillion. The government was spending $30.5 billion in the first 5 months of this year. Obamacare is set to add $6.2 trillion to America's long-term debt, according to a GAO report. And the GAO came out yesterday and said, by the way, you remember how we're going to reduce your premiums on insurance? GAO came out and said they're going to go up by 203%. And the tax increases that we had to have to get this under control, the ones that everybody felt, even though it was only supposed to be a tax on the rich, that's already gone. They've already spent all of that for the entire year. It was gone within the first month. Despite the tax hikes, the government debt has increased $36 billion this year, more than it did last year in the same time period. We're weak, we're broke, and our citizens are underprepared.
Hi, I'm Krista, and my husband and I, between us, have 8 kids, so we're very, very busy. We're running everywhere all the time, and I like to work from home. I don't want to be in a corporate job, which I've done before, lots of times, and I want to be able to be home with my kids. It's something important to us. So when Go Foods found us, it was a solution to a lot of our family's needs. One of the things that's important to our family is eating healthy. Another thing is eating economical. And I was feeling a little bit guilty as a mom because there were a lot of times where things got crazy at home. So I found myself at 7, 8 o'clock at night realizing that I hadn't made dinner, and I felt bad about that. And Go Foods changed all that for me, because now I get dinner on the table. It takes me 15 minutes. I don't have to think about it. Everybody's happy. I know I'm feeding my kids something that's great for them. And then I decided that as a business person, it made so much sense to share this with other people. We found that we were saving a couple $100s a month using Go Foods, and that was without having to search out coupons or anything else. We just took some of the money we already spend on food, and we started buying food from ourselves, investing in ourselves and buying Go Foods. And now we're saving money, and I feel kind of an obligation to share that with people that I care about. So the other day I took dinner to a neighbor, another busy mom friend neighbor, and just made up some Go Foods. Took me a few minutes to make it, brought it over, and last night I got a note from her, and she said in the note that, she says, I have it right here, she says, "Thank you so much for the supper last night. It was so delicious and so welcome. The kids loved every bite, and it was so nice not to have to worry about supper." And it's that easy. It's that easy to share food with people and to make money doing it and give them the opportunity to save money and get food on their table faster and to make money, because everybody needs some extra money. It doesn't matter where you live. We live in a pretty nice neighborhood, and you'd think that everything was great for all the neighbors. It's really not. If you really dig deep into it, there's a lot of people struggling. And Go Foods saves you money, it makes you money, and it gets your family back to the table together. And that's why we love Go Foods. I think Go Foods has saved our family in a lot of ways that we really needed without even knowing we needed it.